Hi there, my name is Kendall Grady and welcome to Kendall's Corner Volume 2, where we're discussing in depth and detail more nuanced and challenging elements of upper string and violin playing. Today I want to talk to you about some advanced bowings. So these are bowings that often come up in ensemble repertoire or private solo repertoire that I find can be thought about as a lot simpler and a lot easier, but which oftentimes seem a little overwhelming or intimidating at first. And I'm going to add harmonics in here as well. So one of the earliest things that comes up is lore or hooked bowing. And I say or because there's a difference between the two. The hooked bow is basically where it could have been played by two separate bows, down and up, but we might have it hooked into the same bow, down, down, or up, up. And what that means is that we still have to hear the separation between the two, like so. There's a few ways we can do this bowing. The first is by stopping and starting the bow. The second is by adding a little bit of nuance in the wrist and elbow, which helps if it's a little slower in tempo. And the third is by adding a little bit of pressure of our first finger like we're used to in that martelé stroke that I've talked about in Volume 1. That's not to be confused with a lore type of bowing, which has to be much more fluid, and you often see in movements and elements of Bach. Now, with this type of bowing, I keep the bow moving, so I don't stop it. I do less with my first finger and pressure and more with the weight of my arm and my wrist. So you still hear a delineation between the two notes, but they are also connected. So the difference here is if you see a slur and two staccato dots, that might be hooked bowing. Or if you see down, down, up, up, that might be hooked bowing. Whereas the lore, the kind of connected bow, you'll see a slur maybe with two legato marks under it, or it might say very smoothly or connectedly. Related to this is the up bow, down bow staccato. And I find that at first students and even myself can feel, worrisome, pressured by this type of bowing, but actually it can be quite simple. So you start at one end of the bow. I like to start at the tip of the bow for up bow, of course, and I'm putting all of my weight of my arm and my hand in my first finger. And each time I move the bow, I press down or pinch again. What's important to note here is once you get into the middle and closer to the frog, the weight of where your hand is, the balance of it, is going to change to be closer to your pinky. So the motion is going to go from your first finger to perhaps your middle finger, or perhaps your ring, or even closer to your pinky. I feel mine a lot in my wrist as I get closer to the lower half, and vice versa. So if I'm going to have a down bow staccato, I'm going to be starting with more weight and balance in the back part of my hand, and it's going to go into my first finger. Like so. So that's dealing a lot with the balance of the hand, right? Similarly, there is that balance element in terms of harmonics. So I find that harmonics work when the right hand, the bowing hand, is on the string, is close to the bridge, and starts off by very much gripping the string and pulling, just like your up bow or down bow staccato. The next element that we need to understand about balance is there a balance in our left hand. So if we're playing a natural harmonic, which is a harmonic that falls organically in one of the major locations of our instrument, like halfway up, right? There's not much balance that we have to worry about with our hand. But if we're playing what we think of as a false harmonic, which is not necessarily false, but basically just one of our fingers, like our first finger, is down, and our fourth finger is light, then the balance is actually closer to the first finger. So in other words, there's less weight in this part of the pinky of my left hand. So even as we're playing, we have to be thinking about the balance between our first finger and our pinky. Similarly, there's a balance on elements of the string. And one of the final advanced bowings I want to talk about is continuous string crossing. So this is an element in the music where you have many string crossings like this, and that's the way that it is supposed to be written. So I've talked in the past, previous videos, about balancing on each string level in our string crossings. But when we have something like that, what we want to do is balance between the strings. So in this case, between the A and the E string, we're going back and forth. And instead of moving between the strings with our full arm, I'm actually going in between the strings with this open and closing motion of my forearm. So instead of this, I'm going like this. And I think something to note here is it, again, helps the string cross start if you're coming from a lower string up. It's almost like you have a jumping off point. It's a little trickier when you're coming from that E string going down. So these are just things to practice. I hope that running through some of these more advanced bowings and their technical elements will help you and your approach to your music. And I hope that it makes you feel less intimidated and more empowered, and that you can take these elements apart in the bowings until that they feel comfortable and natural to you. So until next time, keep your hearts light and your tops up. Bye-bye for now.